Hello there, people of the internet. I've got the air conditioner going because it's really hot right now here in Florida. It's summertime, so I'm gonna leave that on. You guys are gonna hear that in the background. That being said, this right here, I have no idea how you actually pronounce this name, but B-R-Y-C-O, Bryco. I'm just gonna call it Bryco. This is a Bryco 59, which is a 380 auto, essentially a Saturday night special. This right here, although it looks essentially like a tank, it's a nice heavy handgun. It's actually a very, I don't want to really call it a soft metal because it's more of an alloy. It's called it's a metal called Zamic, and it's essentially a really cheap, productive means of production cast metal that allows you to make a lot of very inexpensive handguns very quickly. The issue is, these handguns have a tendency to not have a very long lifespan. So that being said, the 380s tend to have not as bad of an issue with breaking as, say, the 9mm versions of this style of handgun. More often than not, you're going to have frame breakage, or you're going to have the slide break up over here. Like, I've seen quite a few of these handguns where this part breaks, or this part right here breaks. So you got to kind of pay attention and keep an eye out for like hairline cracks and things like that. That being said, this right here is a little handgun that I won at auction for about 10 bucks. So no matter the condition of the handgun, even if I am just going to use it as parts, that $10 point automatically makes it worth it. That being said, I'm probably going to get this up and going because the 380s tend to last for a pretty fair, decent amount of time in comparison to, like, say, the 9mm. So whenever I bought this, it was incomplete. They did not tell me what was and was not missing from it, but for 10 bucks, I am, like, no matter what it is, I'm sure that I can figure it out. These are extremely simple handguns. I'm very well attuned with how they work. Basically, your Bryco, your Jennings, your Lorsons, all of your style of handgun like this, they all work pretty much the same way, and you can use pretty much garbage to fix them. Alright, so first off, I notice we have our extractor. We are missing our little disassembly piece. We're just going to call it the disassembly piece. It kind of serves multiple functions, but that little piece, you're normally supposed to push it in, and then your slide lifts up and whatnot. We got our safety, we got our trigger. Trigger seems to have all of its springs. Safety seems to be functional. Without this right here, we should just be able to lift this up, in theory. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. And then the slide should come right off. We do have ourselves a fixed barrel in this thing. People will tell you that the barrel is also Zamic. That is not Zamic. That right there is actually a steel barrel. You can see right here where they had to pin it in place. If that was Zamic, they would have just molded it along with the frame itself. Alright, so first things first, let's go ahead and get this magazine out of there, because we don't need that right there. That explains why it's so difficult to get out. It's a little on the rusty side. Alright, so first things first, I'm noticing that our trigger linkage is currently missing. So whenever I pull the trigger, you'll notice the sear does not move. That's a pretty easy fix right there. Basically any kind of metal linkage that you can link between your catch right there and this piece right here, I mean, it'll work. You could take aluminum from a soda can and a hole punch and punch out pieces and make it work. So that's not going to be that hard of a fix. What I am noticing here, right here, is our recoil spring, also covered in rust. I'm thinking that maybe this handgun came across either salt water or maybe blood at some point. We are missing our firing pin assembly as well, which makes sense because there's this gaping hole in the back that would normally retain that. So that is currently gone. The best thing I can think of that, if I can't find a firing pin, a spring of any kind of work, but if I can't find a firing pin, I could actually essentially take a nail, and I have a million lathe machining. I could just manufacture one out of a nail. It won't really be that difficult at all. It's basically just a spring and the actual firing pin itself. There's got to be an engagement that catches on this sear, because whenever that sear pulls down, the spring pushes the firing pin forward, and then there's the little caulking piece in the back that kind of holds that all in place. This is a straight blowback system, so it is an incredibly simple and easy design. Inside of the barrel, actually the inside of the barrel looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any real significant pitting or wear. which is definitely a good sign. That probably means that this was not shot very much. Let's look here. I don't see any hairline fractures, which would normally be indicative of what you would find in these handguns whenever they're beginning to fail. So yeah, we might actually still have some life in this thing. I'm not saying I'm going to take this out and go plinking with it every single weekend, but for a Saturday night special for representation on the YouTube channel, that will work. Not much going on with this right here. The spring still has plenty of springiness. Our retainer right there seems to be retaining just fine. Let's go ahead and see if we can't throw all this back together. The reassembly of these guns is a little on the wonky side. You gotta kind of shove that in there and cram that in there. Fantastic. So slide is back on. Definitely got to do something about that trigger linkage. I'd say that's probably going to be the biggest challenge, because the rest of it is going to be no problem at all. I'm probably just going to see if I can find the disassembly piece that would normally be right here in the back. Fixed iron sights on this thing. These tend to be pretty gosh darn accurate because of that fixed barrel with the fixed iron sights. It's a shame that the slide is just such a crappy alloy, and they just have a tendency to break. Alright, well, there we go. That right there is my $10 little handgun. Not bad for the price point. For what I have here, although there are some parts missing, the overall piece itself seems to be in pretty good shape. A little bit of surface rust on a couple of things, but hell, for the price I paid, just the magazine in this thing alone makes it worth it, because these mags normally run like 30 bucks, which is absolutely wild. Anyway, I got no idea how many rounds this thing actually holds. Clearly a double stack, but I'm not gonna bother trying to figure that out now. If I had to make a bet, 10, maybe 12. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.